He sat in the bowels of a cave. It was dark. He daydreamed about a scheme to escape this cave without a cape. This is hell, he thought. I've fought fights to eradicate the night, and I've brought life to castigate the night, and I've taught millions. Knowing that someday I'll just be known as some inanimate animation fabricated in BC, comically dreamed up in imaginations just so they can see. And imagine a hero that's always ready to abdicate and activate an adequate amount of sight so light can fight the night. They can be free to see. But me, I'm just a tool used to screw the foolish into believing that after this life there won't be a need for a Justice League. But a true hero knows that, like the civil rights movement in the 60s, the bright light ain't always right, and the righteousness lies in the darkest degrees, so he stated. And he prayed for days, contemplating ways to escape in a 3-day daze, dazed off into his own world and the hopeless friends that he kissed were the ones that betrayed. Some were even robbing him while robbing was his only aid. And dismayed as he may be, he had already passed the feat that he knew with his daddy he would have had to agree to disagree. Despite his pleas and "Father, don't leave me, please," he had to see it and drink it like tea with no honey. And as he grasped his nose and the wine went down, he never whined to his kind or let a smile turn down. He had to stay turned up, knowing that if Adam died from a tree, then he had to endure the exact same thing. He had to save the world by fulfilling his word without any powers or a ring, and then he fell asleep. As he slept, he dreamt about the role he had to accept. He kept tossing and turning, learning about the sins for his people that he had to intercept. He wept. He was woken in pain, sprained and broken, beaten to the brink of death, left with a little lining of silver, a sliver of life. He had to go up and was hung up with his arms stretched, not for his own wrongdoing, but for the healing of his people. His back had to be self-elected to be neglected and not respected for others' crimes. And now this symbol of stretched wings will be remembered for all time, shining across the sky, a symbol of his life. This Christ-like figure, eternally acknowledged for sacrifice. He was left hanging until he could stand. Like a canvas, he was branded with bruises and was commanded to be left stranded. This is the hand that he himself had asked to be handed. It was the hand that he demanded. Playing solitaire and solitary alone until he could single-handedly land on his feet. He couldn't save his people until he found himself in defeat. Again, he fell asleep. The next day he woke and he waited like Alfred. And he began to journey in his mind to the day that he got severed from his father, who was in heaven. Because from youth he had grown up without his true parent, but the glory of his wealth continued because it was inherent. So he was raised by someone else who was close to his daddy, but could never quite experience the fierce sadness of being in the alley. He felt responsible. So responding to the rage and taking on the turmoil, he had to save mankind by representing their darkness, just to bring out of it some light. He understood how they felt having dealt without his daddy for all these years in the night, so he accepted his role and put on his head some spikes, and he decided to live life as the hero in the night. Having thought about his purpose, he got up on day 3 to take the became the whole world cried because finally the man behind the mask had rised. Veiled Christians and all from the bondage and blasphemy of Bane. The world was free from jokers, ghouls, and villains that are insane. And he retired his mantle and passed it on to all of his disciples. Greater works will you do. That's the role that we're entitled. The storyline from sin and suffering to resurrection and redemption resembles remembrance to the symbol and not the individual. It's simple. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Weeping may have endured for this dark night, but joy came in his morning. His disguise compromised lies for us guys. This implies eternal life is more than just being baptized. What greater love than this for a man to lay down his life? Our joy returned in the morning because the sun had finally rised.